Welcome to a Friday edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm your host, John Gonzalez, alongside our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, and starting to become a regular thing on Fridays, Coach Avery Johnson is here. Gentlemen, how are you?
What's up, guys?
Doing great. What's up? What's up?
Avery, we're falling into a rhythm here. You're joining us every Friday. We're excited about that. We're going to get right into it. Later in the show, Lakers on the brink of elimination, and we'll preview this weekend's playoff matchups. But first, nowhere else to start. Knicks and Sixers. What a series this has been. Sixers finally get one here, guys. They win 125-114. Series is now 2-1 in the Knicks' favor. And Embiid, my Lord, what a performance. 50 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. He got those 50 on 19 shots, guys. That's the fewest in a 50-point playoff game ever. Avery, you first. What'd you think?
Well, I love how Joel Embiid got to the free throw line. That's, he was efficient from the line, from the field. He had it all working. This guy is an unstoppable force when he's healthy. And we didn't know what was going to be the extent of his health going into game 3, especially what happened in game 2. But he was moving well as I've seen him move since he returned to the lineup post injury. So I love his intensity. He was a presence on the defensive end of the floor. And let's face it, Joel Embiid is the best player in the series if he's at 90%. So the Knicks they don't have an answer for him. He was highly motivated. And then the combination of Embiid and Maxey, the Knicks, unfortunately, they don't have that type. They don't have that combination.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just echo what Coach said. Best player in the series, one of the 3 best players on the face of the earth when those guys are healthy. And John, we've talked about this. I'm not showing you. I still thought the Sixers had a chance going into that game. I think they're going to win the series now, or at least they can. I think either of these teams can win. But we do this dire, the sky is falling thing, understandably so, because the games are so significant when we are early in these series. But things happen, momentum changes. We saw a great shooting night from the Sixers because it is. Maybe you can speak to this later more than I can, but that old adage that just it's easier for guys, especially non-superstars, to shoot. The rim's a little friendlier when you're at home. Maybe you're a little more comfortable. And I think there's an interesting irony in Jalen Brunson. It wasn't bad the first 2 games, but wasn't very efficient. It wasn't at that level. The Knicks win those games. Jalen Brunson, overshadowed by Embiid's game, was amazing. They lose that game. To me, it just speaks to how closely matched these 2 basketball teams are.
Yeah, I mean, they really needed Joel Embiid in this one because you go down 0-3 and that's a wrap. That's it. But playoff career high for him. He's the first Sixer to go for 50 in the postseason since Iverson. He's the first player to go for 45 or more in the playoffs against the Knicks since Jordan. That is very good company. He was
yeah, it is.
He is extremely efficient in that game, 64% and change from the floor. He had 5 threes. Avery mentioned the free throw shooting. He went 19 of 21 from the line. Knicks fans, not at all excited about that. Avery, after the game, and there's been Nick Nurse and the Sixers did this earlier where they were working the refs a little bit. Tom Thibodeau did the same thing last night where he was complaining about Brunson not getting as many foul calls. I will say until the final minute where they intentionally fouled Joel Embiid 3 times, the free throw disparity between Brunson and Embiid was negligible. Embiid had taken 15 and Brunson had taken 12. And so it got ratcheted up in the last minute. But I understand that they're sort of working the refs there. What's the strategy when you're a coach? You come out of a game like this, you see Embiid getting a bunch of free throws. Are you just trying to send a message a little bit to the refs?
Absolutely. And what you're trying to do simultaneously is you're trying to send a message to the ref without giving your players a bailout and making excuses for why you lost. Ultimately, and you're not even talking to the refs, you're actually talking to the league office, right? You're talking to the whole, you're talking to Joe Dumars. You're not just talking to the refs. You want their eyes when they go back and rewatch the game and understand that, you should have gotten a couple of more free throws and, hey, I want to take care of my best player. So you're also talking to Jalen Brunson through the media in the sense that, hey, I got your back. I'm going to protect you. So there's a lot of different messaging going on when coaches in a post game, especially in the playoffs, are complaining about refereeing.
I love the coach perspective. Let me give you a media perspective on what I wish we did more in this business. We obviously have to give our opinion and our perspective. I just want to apologize and say I was wrong. I think I described as loser energy, the Sixers' response to those losses and how they griped about the officials and the official complaint. You know what? They got away with so much stuff in that game, probably connected to that as we're talking about. I was wrong. I'm sorry, Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse and all the guys. Really, like, in retrospect, because in the moment it felt just so small. But it worked. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into Embiid and sort of his shenanigans, which I think, and I'll let you go, John, but I think the fact he got away with it, I think there has to be a correlation to how the Sixers set up this idea. We've been wrong, and maybe a little hesitancy from the officials. Good job, you guys. I was wrong.
No, I'm glad you brought this up because you and Ashley and I had talked about the Sixers in the first two games. And I thought, look, should there have been a call on Maxey when he had his jersey tugged at the end of game 2? Probably, yeah. But I thought the way that Maxey reacted was right because Nick Nurse was complaining and Embiid was complaining. But Maxey went, look, whether they call it or not, we had different ways to win the game and we should have won the game. And we can't complain about the refs because it's been a super physical series both ways. You are, however, right, Bill, that I do think working the refs might have played in the Sixers' favor. I'm very interested to see what you guys, because there's a play with Mitchell Robinson in the first half where Embiid was on the ground and Mitchell Robinson went to, now I watched this thing over and over. I was on HQ last night. They were asking me about it. And I was like, look, he went to jump. It looked to me that as the ball is being thrown into Mitchell Robinson with Embiid on the ground, Embiid looked up and went, oh man, Mitchell Robinson is going to get a really easy play here to score. I'm going to try to hold him down from doing that. Do a little Draymond shenanigans. I'll get a foul call on me, and that'll be the end of it. I don't think he meant to hurt Mitchell Robinson, but it was obviously inadvisable. They call a flagrant 1 on him. Knicks fans were irate that it wasn't a flagrant 2. There was no chance in hell that the referees were tossing Joel Embiid from that game down 0-2. There was no way. But objectively, independently of that, Avery, if they weren't down 0-2, should it have been a flagrant 2? What did you see there?
I don't believe that was a flagrant 2. I think he was just trying to grab him. He definitely wasn't trying to injure Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
But again, it's a heated situation. These two teams are battling. It actually looked worse than it was. I've been in that situation before where I've been grabbed by a guy on the floor or I've grabbed the guy. And I've grabbed the guy, in a manner where I really slammed him to the ground and, got ejected from the game. But in Embiid's case, again, independent of where they are in this series, he's not going to get ejected with a flagrant 2. Yeah. They made the right call. They moved on. I don't know if it was as dirty as some of the Knicks players were complaining about.
Nick or Bill, can you imagine if they tossed Joel Embiid from that game?
Oh my God. The Sixers. No, there'd be riots in the streets. I saw what Avery saw, right? I did not have to do the late night HQ hit. So I got to watch that game while having some cocktails. So I watched it several times this morning and I'm with Avery, but I'll say this. I think you can see what you want. I think you brought up a Rorschach test the other day, John. Like you can kind of see what you want to see. If it weren't Joel Embiid, that might have gone a different direction. And again, I'm going to be a little repetitive here, but nice job by the Sixers for in a marginal situation where you're not going to kick out a star, but just to err on the side of having managed the officials so aggressively that they don't make a mistake. And I think even had he done it a little more, it looked a little more intentional. I still think you can't kick out Joel. You just can't. And you just can't decide the series in that moment. So nice job officiating officials. I saw what Avery saw. And John, these things are going to happen. It wasn't super, super dirty. Whatever the intentions, it wasn't an incredibly dirty play.
I didn't see it. And again, I'm looking at it through Philadelphia colored glasses a little bit, admittedly, but I think I have been pretty fair with both sides of the referee, like in the games 1 and 2, where I was like, stop complaining about the refs. It's been as we've discussed so many times on this show, Avery, post All-Star break, the way that they're officiating games now, right? They before the All-Star break, everybody was complaining about how there's too much scoring and not enough defense. Post All-Star break, the league makes an adjustment and now it's just like a cage match out there and you got to get used to it. I mean, it's way more physical. And on top of that, it's the playoffs. So you have to expect more physicality. But I thought that the referees after the game did a pretty good job explaining that, hey, we were all in unison here. We all agreed, including the replay center, that this didn't rise to the level of a flagrant 2. Now, in defense of Knicks fans, Embiid was pretty aggressive in that first half and did have to kind of calm down a little bit. I don't know if you guys saw, Avery, did you see the play where he also kicked out his leg and got Mitchell Robinson in his groin area? I get why they complained. It was a physical game.
Yeah, and again, this is going to be a very intense series. You got two fan bases that really don't care for each other in any sport.
Yes.
That's true.
So, these fans, I remember when I was coaching the Nets, and I used to take the train down to Philly to visit my daughter when she was in college, and I would get booed on the train, and just by normal daily.
Who could boo you? That's ridiculous.
That's amazing, though.
So this is a heated series, and everybody's on edge right now, because if the Knicks lose in the first round, they're going to look at their season as a disaster. If Philadelphia loses in the first round, why did you fire Doc Rivers? That's for Bill.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'll tell you,
go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to say, to your point, I'm at the WFAN radio office here because I do my radio show and they're our sister station. And I don't know if you guys noticed, to your point, Avery, that these fan bases don't like each other. I have to be a little quieter when I say that it wasn't a flagrant 2, because I'm not kidding. Around this corner here, there are some angry people. Everyone here is, like, from the Knicks fans' perspective, they're so pissed off. And the hypocrisy, if I may say that, of why are Phillies fans complaining everything was justifiable in the 28-second comeback to everything. This is a conspiracy against us. You're right, Avery. They do not. And I had dinner with a buddy from Philly last night. So they do not like each other at all. There's a lot of hatred out there.
Philly fans and Boston fans and Sixers fans, it's just the Spider-Man meme. It's just us pointing at each other. They're all the same people. I have a ton of friends from New York, a ton of friends from Boston. I lived in Boston for a long time. We are all the most annoying fan bases on the planet. And everything that happens to your team is unjustifiable. And anything that happens to the other team is completely justifiable. So I think the series has been outstanding so far. It's lived up to the hype and then some. I want to just mention one more thing too. We found out last night, previously, this is unbelievable. So Embiid, after game 2, he had his head down. He wasn't like really paying attention during the interview. And some people were like, oh, he can't even look at the camera. How disgraceful this is. He had sunglasses on after game 1. Some people were like, maybe there's an eye issue going on. We found out that he's got a case of Bell's palsy. So if you don't know what that is, it's an unexpected weakness or paralysis in his facial muscles. And it basically means like he can't blink. Part of his face, the left side of his face, he can't really it doesn't work right now. He said that it results in it's uncomfortable, it's annoying, it's painful. He's got these headaches, but he's not a quitter. So he's playing through with half a face and one knee. And he went out and put out one of the most impressive performances of his playoff career, Avery. I don't know what else to say about him.
No, this guy, Bill said it. He's one of the top 3 players in the game. And on any given day, he could be number 1 consistently. But I think the key is he's the type of player where his teammates have a healthy sense of respect for him. Especially, he's basically semi-injured and he's still playing. He's never going to be 100% this season, even if they make it to the finals. He's probably going to be 100% next year. But when you're dealing with this facial situation, the knee, I don't think he's still in 100% shape right now. I think he's getting there. I still see some moments where, he's struggling to get up and down the floor. But put it on that 50 piece in game 3, which if they don't win that game, the series is over. And going into game 3, I was on CBS Sports HQ and I was talking about the one team that's down 0-2 that's going to come back and win this series. I've been all over Philly in this series, and now that they down 2-1, they'll get it tied up 2-2. I'm still expecting them to win this series in 6.
I agree with Avery. I will say this as a point of warning and just worth keeping an eye on per this conversation. He got away with the flagrant one that was a flagrant one. It wasn't a flagrant 2, but I think he's used up that goodwill, right? All of that sort of political capital with the officials. And to Avery's point and how tough Embiid is, he is obviously in physical pain. And with the Bell's palsy, more pain than we realized. And at the risk of overstating this, hurt people. I think he's angry. I think he's grumpy. I just think he's got a temper. If you're Embiid, you got to be careful. You don't cross lines now in some of these moments and go a little too far. Because I do think he is fighting through massive pain. And when people are in pain, when they're in actual physical pain, I think he is. And you saw him was it Josh Hart that he didn't push down? It was a little overstated in game 1 or 2, but he's been pretty physical. And I don't think he's crossed lines, but it's just worth keeping an eye on that he doesn't do that because he's not getting the benefit of the doubt if we have another marginal situation.
Yeah, he was a little out of control in that first half.
Also, I just quickly, I think also in Embiid's case, even though he's focused on this series with the Knicks, I think in the back of his mind, he's saying, especially with the Celtics, the way they lost to Miami, in the back of his mind, he's thinking, we got a shot if we can advance because the Celtics are beatable. I believe in Joel Embiid's mind.
I agree.
I don't really enjoy you guys forecasting ahead to the Celtics series. I would like to say them just like play the Knicks. The Knicks are really good. They're having and by the way, all of a sudden you guys are putting me in the position of defending the Knicks. The Knicks are up 2-1 in this series. So let's just
they're good too.
Going.
They're very good. And as you mentioned, Bill, the fact that we're talking about Joel Embiid right now really speaks to what kind of game he had because Jalen Brunson was awesome last night, 39 and 13. And on any other night, we're talking about Jalen Brunson after this. So kudos to him. Hell of a series. I can't wait for game 4. That's going to be on Sunday. We're going to preview that a little bit later. But first, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to discuss womp womp, the poor Los Angeles Lakers who are just one game away from elimination. That's next on Beyond the Arc.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc on an Avery Johnson Friday. We got to get a sponsor for that or something. We'll brand it. You can find us wherever you get your favorite podcast. Please download and subscribe. Leave us a review. Danger time for the Lakers. Not surprisingly, they lost again to the Nuggets 112-105 last night. It's 11 wins in a row for Denver over Los Angeles, 7 of those in the playoffs. The series is at 3-0. Joker went off again for 24, 15, and 9. I don't know what to say here, Avery. Last year, after they got swept out, the Lakers, and Bill and I live in Los Angeles, we hear it all the time, but Lakers fans were like, that series was amazing. It was the most competitive sweep in NBA history. They just keep getting swept by the Nuggets. I don't know what they're supposed to do here. Bill or Avery? Avery, what do you think? What are they supposed to do?
I'm in silence right now because
I was wondering what's happening.
The Lakers are a complete disaster right now. And I was in this hotel with the Lakers in New Orleans when they were playing against the Pelicans. And, you know, this team was playing at a high level. They looked like they were that next step forward. They wanted to win that game against the Pelicans, knowing well that the Nuggets was in the front mirror. The issue is, I believe they lost this series in game 2. They lost, and they not only lost the series, I think game 2 broke the Lakers. It broke their will and their spirit. Not LeBron James or Anthony Davis, who I have a high sense of respect for both of those guys, but it broke them as a team. And to see the unfortunate, untimely performance of D'Angelo Russell in game 3, to have one of the worst games of your career, and the body language and the disengagement, and you know, you're looking like you're on your phone away from the huddle of the Lakers, and it looked like you quit on the team. It just was a bad look.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm with Avery. It broke their will in this series, and it may break things beyond this series. If last year was the most competitive sweep in history, this is certainly not that. And I'm not saying LeBron James is passing up on all that money because he has a player option this summer and leaving, but LeBron ain't going to be happy. And obviously, there's a D'Angelo Russell situation where they don't really have a choice but to have him there. He has a player option, right? But still, like he's going to want to get more than that. And Darvin Ham has obviously lost that team. You talk to people in that organization. You just watch the games. That seems pretty clear. Fair, not fair. That's a decision that has to be made. And the roster doesn't look good enough. And so everything, Coach, you said is so on point. And I think, unlike some other teams where maybe you lose and you look at things, we played the Nuggets. I think this breaks things potentially beyond this series. This is going to inject so much drama and angst and frustration for a Lakers team that they're going to try to go get, I guess it's Trae Young or they're going to Donovan Mitchell, but it's just going to increase the pressure to try to maybe make a mistake there by giving too much, or in my opinion, Trae Young's the wrong guy. I think the series is over and something might be broken beyond this series for this Lakers team going forward.
Yeah, something has to change. And Avery, I'm interested because Bill brought up a point there about, Darvin Ham and the way that this series has gone. After game 2, Anthony Davis not so subtly threw Darvin Ham under the bus and said that the team was unprepared at both ends of the floor. And he didn't mention Darvin Ham, but he didn't need to. And then afterwards, the next day, Darvin Ham is forced to stand in front of the media and say, hey, I'm going to respectfully disagree. I think that we're pretty prepared here. But what does that do to a coach's mindset? How does that impact team chemistry? Because now it's like, what's the media supposed to do? We have to ask you about this now. And now it puts you guys on the spot. And I would imagine it makes things uncomfortable for the coach and the team.
Yeah. Normally when you see interviews like this post-game, teams like this, their culture and their foundation is not as solid as we think. Because in basketball or in business, you don't find out about your culture when you win a new contract. Yep. If you're in business, or when you win a series 4-2. No, you find out about your culture when you're down 2-0 after a heartbreaking loss in game 2.
Yep.
Or are you going to play the blame game? Do you take an in-depth look at your own performance? The best way, really good teams, the best teams make each other better. The best teams, they don't make excuses and they don't point the finger at the coach. The coach is the easiest target. The coach and the fans, they're the easiest target. So I'm little disappointed there with that interview and that take. But when Greg Popovich did something that I disagree with, it was not for public consumption. We kept it internally. When I went before the podium to give comments, it was always about, we got to get better. We're capable of getting better. I got to do a better job of getting guys in the right spot. It was never about the coach didn't have us prepared.
Avery, obviously Anthony Davis is an incredible player and has a lot of influence and power just as a star player. I'm curious what you would do and what tends to happen. Does Darvin Ham talk? Does he go to Anthony Davis and pull him aside and say, that's not cool? Or what happens behind the scenes and should happen behind the scenes from a coach when a star player clearly throws him under the bus in such a public setting?
Yeah, that's a one-on-one conversation in the sense of, I need to understand your mindset and what were you trying to accomplish in that press conference with those comments? What was the goal? Were you trying to take some of the spotlight off yourself? Or were you trying to shine it somewhere else? So I think that's a one-on-one conversation. And rarely have I seen, how many times in his illustrious career or their illustrious career have you seen Tim Duncan or Dirk Nowitzki have that type of interview? It's been pretty rare, if at all, because it was always about team team. What can I do to help the team?
You know, I don't think Darvin Ham or the Lakers writ large have had a great season, but I also I hear Lakers fans in LA complaining about him. Then there's the AD comments about how we're unprepared. I'm not sure what levers Darvin Ham's supposed to pull here, because you look at their team and coming off the bench, they went with 8 guys last night. Coming off the bench, you had Gabe Vincent, who was hurt almost the entire season, Spencer Dinwiddie, who they got on a buyout, and Taurean Prince, who was intermittently hurt this season. Are you supposed to throw Jackson Hayes out there? And even if you do, I mean, I think it's a failure of the roster. The roster assembly, they just don't have the people to combat one of the great teams in the end, the defending champions right now, but one of the great teams the last few years. Joker, in his last 22 playoff games, is averaging 30.5, 13.7 rebounds and 9.5 assists. I don't know.
Oh my God, that's insanity.
It's insanity. Last
30?
night,
You said 30?
30.5 points, 13.7 rebounds, and 9.5 assists. And that's just Joker. Last night, Aaron Gordon had his best playoff game of his life. He was outrageously good last night. As you can see on the graphic, for those of you watching on our YouTube channel, Michael Porter Jr. also had a massive night. They just have more players. They have better players. And, you can blame it on Darvin Ham, I guess, but I thought LeBron's comments afterwards, somebody asked him, hey, what are you supposed to do with this team? And he was like, I don't know. They're really good.
This team is definitely well equipped, well prepared, well coached. They do not have a weakness offensively. Every guy that they put on the floor, especially their starting lineup, they've been one of the best starting fives in our league over the last few years. They got shot makers, they have playmakers, they have guys that can rebound and assist and things of that nature. So, it's always, they always try to keep you at bay, but it's definitely one of the better teams that I've played in my career.
I mean, LeBron's right, Coach, and John makes such a good point. GMs tend not to fire themselves; they tend to fire their coaches, even if the GM has made the mistake. What are you supposed to do if you're Darvin Ham? What is the solution?
Pray, go to church. I think, again, you got to try to get the ball out of Joker's hands as much as you can. He's just picking them apart. And I think they haven't really done a good enough job on Michael Porter. Michael Porter, in a playoff series like this, he should have 8 points max. He shouldn't have 20 points in the good looks that he's getting.
Clean looks.
They've been really inconsistent defensively. Yeah, clean looks. Too clean.
Yeah. I mean, look, I thought LeBron's response in the same way that when we were talking about the Knicks and the Sixers not complaining about the referees and LeBron did a little bit of that after game 2, but I thought his response after this one was right.
Did a lot of it.
Look, we could talk about all these external things, but the fact of the matter is the Denver Nuggets are a very good team. They're loaded. They're the defending champs for a reason, and they have the best player on the planet. And aside from him tossing up his hands and going, what are you supposed to do on his behalf? What are you supposed to do? So Godspeed to the Lakers. Avery, Bill asked you, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to be making their vacation plans. They're going to be in Cabo one more game, and then they're done. That's the end.
And sometimes all right, we're going to go. What happens is, I've seen this right quick. Some teams are bad matchups. Some teams, if the Lakers weren't playing Denver, they may be on fast speed to the Western Conference Finals. But Denver's a bad matchup.
Denver's a bad matchup for everybody. So good luck for whoever they draw in the next round. Quick break here. And then on the other side, a loaded slate of playoff games starting tonight, Saturday, and Sunday. So we're going to go through all the series and just discuss that. That's next right here on Beyond the Arc.
At CBS Sports Golazo Network, we're bringing you the game.
Madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Whoa.
And all day long!
24/7.
Welcome back to Beyond the Arc on a Friday. Not just a podcast, gang. Also on YouTube, you can find us at Beyond the Arc CBS. Subscribe to our page. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. We've got all these videos for you guys to check out. Fun stuff. Real quick before we get into the series, the different series that are in various different stages. Steph Curry won Clutch Player of the Year. How do we feel about that, gang?
I voted for him. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah. I feel great about it.
Confirmed
I'm good
Bill's
with
vote. Everybody's good with it. All right.
I mean, I can't be like, yeah, I voted for him, but what a joke. It's
Well,
good.
what idiot voted for him?
What morons. Oh, shoot. I was one of them.
All right, let's start with tonight's Friday playoff games. 3 good ones tonight. We got Bucks and Pacers tonight. No Giannis for game 3. He's out again with a calf injury. That series is tied at 1-1. Pacers are the favorites tonight as we shifted back to Indiana. They're -6. Avery, curious what you think about this series because game 1, Dame went off. Game 2, Dame went off again. But in both of those, he was a no-show in the second half. And then Pascal Siakam has been, I think, the best player in this series. Pacers have a chance here.
Yeah, and the Pacers are dominating Milwaukee in the paint. They outscored them 52-36 in the paint. No Giannis to be that last line of defense. We know Damian Lillard is not really a good defender. You're right. He's slowed down in the second half of these games. I'm Hilton because even when he's in the lineup and supposedly healthy, he's just not playing at the same level that lines up with, when they signed him. When you're the top 3 player in terms of salary on the team, you got to play at a higher level. He's just been mediocre, average, nothing to really blow you away. He's got to really take his game to the next level, especially to help Damian Lillard offensively. But Pascal Siakam, man, this guy, he looks like, he is the best player in this series on both ends of the floor. Rick Carlisle's doing a nice job with their adjustments. And I just want to see what my guy Doc Rivers got in his back pocket because this series can get out of control pretty quickly against a young, energetic, athletic, fast Indiana Pacers team.
Yeah, for me, Pacers have the best coach in the series. They have the best player who is playing in the series. We saw them get back to playing. I think they were just nervy in that first game. They played outstanding basketball, moved the ball,
yes,
a ton of assists. Yeah, I mean, this was the team that had the most assists in basketball per game over the course of the season. That cratered in game 1 where they were rushing things. They just sometimes, right, young team, you gotta remind yourself, just calm down, play basketball. I like the Pacers tonight, John. I like the Pacers in the series.
We talked about the moving the ball the other night on HQ after the game because like in game 1, they really tried to harass Tyrese Halliburton and he's not really right. He's still dealing with that hamstring injury or whatever, but they're trying to get the ball out of his hands. And I think that like between that and the nerves and they weren't ready for it, the adjustment though, that the Pacers made in game 2, where they're like, all right, you're still going to blitz and trap Tyrese Halliburton. Doesn't matter because the ball's going to be out of his hands. We're going to have a team high. I believe it was a franchise high, wasn't it? Like 50
playoff franchise,
something.
Playoff franchise record, I think. Yeah. Amazing.
Ridiculous. I love the way they play. They're just super fun. I'm excited about that series. Another series we're excited about here, Avery, a team near and dear to your heart. The Dallas Mavericks won a game. That series is tied at 1-1. Goes back to Dallas tonight. Mavs are favored -4.5. We talked about this the other day. I think it's really interesting. Kawhi doesn't play in game 1, and the Mavericks lose that series, that game. Game 2, Kawhi comes back. The Mavericks win that game. If those were reversed, if they were going back to Dallas right now with Kawhi coming back and then they had won game 2, I think we're talking about, oh man, Clippers got Kawhi back. They won a game. They tied up the series. The momentum's with them. I think with the Mavs winning that game when Kawhi comes back, it feels like Kawhi came back. We're good. And the momentum's on our side, especially because now the game's going to be at home.
Yeah. And Kawhi just looked like a fraction of himself. I noticed when that game started, I just felt in my mind that the Mavericks somehow was going to win that game because he didn't look right. Yeah, I didn't see the burst, the lift, the attack. And, Luka Doncic, who's not known for defense, when he was on Kawhi, Paul George, and James Harden, they didn't score. That's a significant problem. But give Dallas credit, and specifically, one of the reasons why they made the trade for PJ Walker was for a series like this, and PJ came up big for them. A couple of big threes, really good on both ends of the floor, and it was just a struggle for the Clippers. They look in the half court, they struggled to score. They haven't found an answer from Luka since he flew to America a couple of years ago.
I mean, to your point about PJ Washington, if I remember right, I think I do. He had 10 fourth quarter points. I mean, he was so critical down the stretch. And John, did you say 5.5, whatever it is, same difference? Those are pretty 4.5. And the Pacers game, I think, was 5 or 6, and the Sixers game was those are pretty big margins. I mean, Vegas is telling you, doesn't mean it'll happen, but there's a lot of belief coming out of Vegas. They're pretty smart there that these teams are going to win these games, which is real. That's a big number, I think, for two teams that felt pretty evenly matched up in this series.
Big number. Interesting to see what happens in that one. Last game of the night on Friday. Bill, want to go to you first on this one.
No,
the Wolves
we have to.
And the Suns. The Wolves are up 2-0 in the series. Wolves looked amazing in both games. The Suns a little bit less so. However, Bill, Suns are favored -4 tonight in Phoenix. You know, who knows what's going on with Grayson Allen and that whole bit, but how are you feeling about this series? Avery, if you don't know about this, Bill and I have a bet on this specific series. I've got the Wolves. He's got the Suns. The winner has to buy our show dinner up to $1,000. You're involved. You're invited for this.
Come on out.
But Bill is a little nervous about this.
I know I've already surrendered, and I'm not even – I was playing games after game one. I was trying to reverse jinx. I just give up. So if I were willing to bet on the Suns, which I will never do again in my entire life, regardless of the context or who plays there ever again, I would fade them tonight. I mean, you said 4. It's also not a terrible margin. Yeah, if you like Phoenix, Avery, I can't even speak rationally about this series. I don't know what I was thinking. I will say this: Anthony Edwards. We've hit this before, but Anthony Edwards, I knew he was great. I didn't know he was great this quickly in these kind of moments. I thought Rudy Gobert, as we talked about, would get exposed a little bit in terms of what they would do to pull him away from the basket and maybe switch off smart guys and attack the rim and just do some of the things we saw happen to him in Utah. And I thought the Suns' big three would have at least one of those people step up. And the fact that Durant, and I'm going to do this wrong, but maybe took 3 shots in the fourth quarter in game 2. I think that's right. That combination, I have given up, Avery. If you want to talk some hope into me for the Suns, I'll take it, but I don't feel great about my bet or Phoenix's chances, at least in the series.
You know, the weird thing about this series is if Don Nelson, my former boss and who I took over for with the Mavericks, if Don Nelson was coaching the Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant would spend a lot of time at the 5 position, because when you try to go big against Minnesota, you're keeping Rudy Gobert in the game. You got to try to figure out how to tweak your lineup and go totally small and just try to outscore Minnesota. That's your only chance, because when you're trying to start a starting center that's limited offensively, that keeps Rudy Gobert in the game. He's protecting the basket. He's in pick and rolls. You got to do something to try to junk up the game a little bit, similar to what the Dallas Mavericks did when Gobert was playing for Utah. And remember those games, Bill, when Jalen Brunson was carrying the Mavericks early in those series until Luka got
back. Sign of things to come.
They downsized. Yeah, they downsized.
Yeah, that's it.
And
that's an interesting idea.
You got to make an adjustment.
You got to make an adjustment. I wonder though, like how many are available to Vogel though, because like with Grayson Allen hurting his ankle the other night, then immediately like Eric Gordon is your best guy off the bench, and now you're playing Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen minutes, and who's playing the Eric Gordon minutes, right? Like I have a question for you guys though. So the Suns, I think if I look at the teams that haven't won yet, we talked about the Lakers, they're down 0-3. The Suns are down 0-2, and the Pelicans are down 0-2. Those are the only teams that haven't won a game yet. I think the Suns have the best shot to win a game and climb back to this into the series.
That's interesting.
3, who do you guys think could potentially win a couple here?
Well, Coach, what do you think? I kind of like New Orleans, Coach, a little bit. I don't like the Suns to win tonight.
Oh, I like the Suns to win tonight. The Suns are winning.
You do?
Yeah, the Suns are winning. Oh, yeah. I like the Suns to win tonight. Yeah. Yeah.
What about your Pelicans?
Yeah. It's all about Brandon Ingram. It's all about Ingram. If he's got to play, you know, when you're going against an MVP candidate and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, your best player can't get outscored by 18 points. You got to at least try to stay within, par or bogey or double bogey. You can't get outscored by 15 to 18 points. Brandon Ingram's got to play not quite at an MVP level, but he's got to be the best player for New Orleans. And, he's got to take his game to the next level.
He just doesn't look right to me, guys. He just doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah. I mean, the first two games, the first game, the Pelicans were in it. That was a great game. And then the second game, I think the Thunder were like, oh yeah, we're the 1 seed for a reason. And then they just were off to the races. They're up 2-0. That game's on Saturday. Thunder are -1 in that game. They're just so insanely deep. Also on Saturday, the Cavs and the Magic, that series 2-1 Cleveland's way. Magic blew the doors off them last night. They're 2.5-point favorites in Saturday's game. Paolo Banchero went for 31, 14, and 5. That's the most points in franchise history in a home playoff debut. And then also on Saturday, Celtics and the Heat. I just want to spend a half a second on the Celtics and the Heat. Celtics are -9 in that. The series is tied 1-1 going to Miami. The Celtics were 14.5-point favorites in game 2 at home. Bill and I talked about this, Avery, and both of us were like, that's a really big margin for the Heat team, but we don't have the courage to bet against the best team in the NBA, ostensibly, right? Is it just me, or if you're the Celtics right now, like if you lose a game in Miami, okay, Spo's an amazing coach. They throw some stuff at you. You lose a game on the road, whatever. You lose a game at home like that to a Heat team without Jimmy Butler. Doesn't it put some thoughts in your head about, here's the voodoo from Miami again?
1,000%. Because, that's why you have home court advantage. You got to protect your home court. But it's not just that the Celtics lost, it's the way they lost. They were dominated in that game. Who would have thought the Heat would win by 10 except Shaquille O'Neal?
Yeah, good job, Shaq.
The physicality, the loose balls, really getting after defensively. Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday. What did Drew Holiday have? 7 points?
He kind of disappeared.
You can't come out with that. Yeah, they disappeared as a team right in front of their home court's eyes. You talking about laying an egg. And this is one of the things you got to keep in mind. Even though Joe Mazzulla, who I have a lot of respect for, is in his second year, it's a tough job. One of the things that the Celtics did was they went out and got 2 high-level assistants in Lee and Sam Cassell. And it's for situations like this. You're going back to Miami, it's 1-1. You really don't want to split. Miami's the type of team you do not want to give this team. They're too dangerous. You don't want to give them confidence. So we'll see from a coaching standpoint, how much is Joe Mazzulla grown, and can he rally his team, who, by the way, is the team that's much better than Miami on paper. So we'll see what he does in terms of adjustments, and see if he can get his team motivated to play at a high level in Miami, where there are a lot of distractions.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a very quick point crediting Brad Botkin, who's one of the NBA writers at CBSSports.com, a point he made on CBS Sports HQ the other night that just struck me as really on point. This becomes a psychological series now because the Celtics are a much better team, and credit to the Heat, but the Heat are not making 55% or whatever it was of their ridiculous number of 3-point shots.
53.5.
Yeah. 3 more games, right? 3 more games. But Spoelstra can make it harder, I think, than people think. It's a 9-point game. They're 9-point dogs. I think Spoelstra can make it closer than that. Like last time, I would bet on the Heat. And I just think it'll be interesting to see how the Celtics respond. Jason Tatum has not been great in the clutch over his career. And we've talked about this, John. If you really get into the data on the Celtics in really close games this year, within 3 points, 5 minutes or less, they were atrociously bad in those situations. It's sort of stunning when you look at it. It doesn't mean it'll repeat itself, but I think it's to Brad Botkin's quote, not mine, psychological series. I'm really curious if Spoelstra can put enough pressure on Boston. Is there a world where Boston underperforms? That's the Heat's only chance, I think.
I think it was also just a really interesting, maybe an obvious adjustment, but just an interesting adjustment that Spo was like, all right, well, we're just going to shoot a lot of threes tonight, and I hope they go in. They took 10 more attempts than averaged during the regular season. And then on the other side, the Celtics took 10 fewer attempts than they averaged during the regular season. And so you got two teams going the opposite way. He'd have their shot fall. And now all of a sudden, now you got the Celtics thinking a little bit. So we'll see how that goes on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we already talked about it. The Knicks and the Sixers game 4. I'm not going to be available for that, gentlemen. You're going to get my out of office message. My phone I'm going to throw it in the ocean before the game. And I may or may not see you on Monday, but we're going to leave that here for now. I hope that both of you have excellent weekends. Make sure to tell everybody about our show if you're listening. We're going to be back at it on Monday with Ashley, but for now, for our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, for the coach, Avery Johnson, I'm John Gonzalez. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Have a great weekend.